All right, I'm Robert Fay, VEX IQ coach and event partner up in Thief River Falls. And I just wanted to give you a quick code your robot in 10 minutes. And the reason I say that is because over and over again as I've interacted with brand new coaches, especially ones that don't have a history in programming, I hear, I'm an art teacher, I don't program. And so the students don't have a robot that has any kind of program on it, especially for skills programming. And the nice thing about VEX IQ is there's generally something every year where the robot can score points just by driving or moving a little bit. And so one of the things, and I had an example here this year, I'll show it a little later, is I have a little two-wheel robot that one of my teams built in a one day. It's just got two motors, nothing else to drive. And it was able to knock off the red cubes and fully park. And so it was 25 points and nothing more than two motors and a couple pieces to hold it to the brain. And the coding on it is fairly simple with the block coding. And there's a few ways that you can do that. There's the VEX blocks. Oh, where's my mouse going here? There's VEX Code IQ app, which you can have on your laptop. I have students that have it on their iPad, which you can Bluetooth to the new Gen 2 brains, or if you have the Blue radios in your Gen 1, you can also do that. From a laptop, you can, if you have Bluetooth, you can connect directly, otherwise through a USB-C cable right into the brain, or in the Gen 2, you can program your robots through a connected controller. And then the other one, which my students use a lot, is actually codeiq.vex.com. So it's the website. And the reason we use that is because we have some fairly cheap computers, is about the only way to say it. They don't have much processing power, and so to run the app, it's really slow. But they're able to get online and they can run that. So I have that up on my screen right here, and I'm just going to show you really quick how I can throw a code into this robot that could go out and score a couple points on the field. And like I said, this year, because a robot just needs to knock off a red cube from a stand to get 5 points, all you would need to do that is to drive forward. And so I've opened this. You can see the site, codeiq.vex.com. It's going to open to this screen. Anytime you write something, you'll have to have a name. So I'm just going to name mine sample. Over here in the upper right, I have to set up my robot. Your IQ brain. Oh, why? Here, let me start this over. Sorry about this. New blocks project. I was working on something else. So, again, I'm going to name this. So I have it. Upper right-hand corner, I have to choose first gen, second gen. The robot I have today is actually a first gen. You can tell it still has the radio in it. You can't see that on the screen, but I'm going to select that. And then all I have is two motors. So I'm going to choose the two-motor drivetrain. And my left motor is in port 6. You'll see the port numbers on top of the brain. The right motor is in port 1. And I actually don't have a gyro. It's that simple. They didn't add this in. If you had a Gen 2, you can have the internal one. You can use a little bit simpler. Same thing here. This robot actually doesn't even have 4 wheels, but it does have 200 millimeter wheels. You choose the width and the wheelbase. If you have any questions on those, you just click the little question mark, and it's going to show you where to do that measurement. Gear ratio, 1:1. I don't have any gearing. It's direct on the motor. I press done. Now my robot's set up, and I get a couple new blocks here for drive forward and turning. And what I do, and this is what I teach my second graders, is I'll grab this drive forward and I'll drag it over here under when started. We drive forward for 24 inches. We use inches because we use inches. And then we turn right 90 degrees. And this is a very simple drive forward 24 inches, we turn right. On this game, this robot would, if I download this, would be able to drive forward, hit one of the red cubes, and knock it off. That'd be worth 5 points. In order to connect my brain here, if I had this plugged in to the right cable, I'd come down here and connect. It would give me the option to connect. This would turn green, and then I'd be able to download my program. Once downloaded, if you're still connected, you can press the start and play. The one nice thing, if you connect through the controllers on the new Gen 2, you can actually start and run your programs without disconnecting from the computers, because you can just run it right through the controller. Yeah. Yeah, so the through the controller has to be done through the app, not on codeiq.vex.com. So I know this is overly simplified. We didn't go into any sensors, anything like that. We didn't do any of the fancy degree turning using the gyroscopes. But a lot of this stuff, what I've found, especially with these young students, they're familiar with iPads. They're using computers more now than we ever have, is if you can just introduce them and show them, how do I get my first thing set up? I selected this port, and the same way that I selected a drivetrain is the same way I'd add any of these other devices. And the more devices you add, the more blocks you're going to get on the left-hand side here. So because I don't have a touch LED, I'm not going to get color options for that LED. But even without that, just the ability to take my robot and drive forward 24 inches, I can score points in this game. And that is a huge win in programming, and something that I encourage everybody to try. There's lots of resources out. I use YouTube a lot when I have questions, because there are people that have videos out there. There's a lot of educator resources on vex.com for that have some of the coding information out there. But certainly give it a try, because in less than 10 minutes, you can get a robot that will drive forward and turn. And if your students can get that first win of being able to drive and turn, they start getting really excited about this and trying different things. And some of it is going to take more research and more time, but certainly that first step is fairly easy to get your robot to move. So I don't want anybody to be intimidated because they don't know coding, they don't know engineering, especially with IQ in their blocks program. Really easy to get out and get started.
All right, and along those lines, if you guys go to the kb.vex.com, kb.vex.com, there's a VEX library knowledge base there, and it's got all kinds of stuff. If you were to click on the VEX IQ, it would give some various programming examples. If you search around enough inside there, VEX Code IQ, and there you go. You've got a nice resource with lots of information there, and dig through that. Actually, you know, some of the best coaches know nothing about programming, and they say, here's the resources I was told about on the KB website here, on the library. Go there, go through some of the tutorials, and figure it out. And the students are actually pretty receptive to that. I mean, I'm going to dive in because they want to. They're super excited about it.
Well, and if we swap to the camera, one thing we can show here is, maybe I'll put this on the table, building something like this gets a little bit complicated. You have gears, you have lots of motors, takes a little bit more to set up these motors together. This is the little robot I was talking about. It's got 2 wheels, 2 motors, and just a little bit of framework. This robot can score points in this game, and you can code it with just a simple drive forward to hit one of those red blocks to score points. So within just less than an hour, you can have young students build this robot and program this robot to score points. And it's kind of amazing to see how fast I start programming with second graders, and it just this drag and drop, and they'll drive this and score points in less than 2 hours. So you don't have to be an engineer, you don't have to know programming languages, different things like that, to be able to get something that can go and score some points. And I think last year, if I remember, literally if you would have driven a robot and scored any points and skills, you would have qualified as a middle school team to go to the IQ tournament here in Minnesota. And but if you skip that and you didn't do it, then you wouldn't have got that invitation. So
right, and that's a great place to start, is that, the very basic robot, a very basic code, and you build upon that. You get a bit of confidence boost saying, oh, I scored some points, yes, and then you can scooch on to, oh, what happens if we were to add a claw or some other mechanism to it, and they figure it out. They're building on that knowledge base, and, very simply, you have to learn how to crawl before you can learn how to run.
And you put that iPad in their hand, that computer in their hand, and you just show them drive forward, turn right. And before you know it, they're looking around, oh, look, I got it to play music. I got it to light up this LED. I got it to, and they're inquisitive. They want to do this, and they're putting pieces together. They're used to searching Google on how to do something. The students, it's amazing how fast they start grabbing those things. If you'll just take that first 10 minutes and show them, here's how to add a device, here's how to make your robot drive forward and turn right, it just kind of blows up from there. And so.
Okay, well, thank you. That's a wrap on VEX IQ programming in 10 minutes. We'll be right back with the top 10 things that every coach should know.